Happy Friday and happy Hanukkah, dear friends. I want to share with you a story about falling and failing. In this week's Parshat, we hear about the tribes selling their brother, down as a slave to Egypt. And the Torah tells us in the next chapter, Yehuda, the leader of the brothers, descended. And he actually ends up falling and failing in a test with his daughter-in-law Tamar. And then the following chapter, we hear that Yosef has descended down to Egypt, and he goes through tremendous challenges in the house of Potiphar, his slave owner, and eventually being sent into a prison for years and years, languishing in an Egyptian prison. Descent. Yosef and Yehuda going through challenges. And what are those challenges? What do those descents lead to? Those failures, those fallings led eventually to Yehuda repenting and becoming the father of the future king of Israel. And what did Yosef end up becoming? The viceroy, the second in command of Egypt, and his children eventually becoming leaders and kings of Israel. Falling, leading to greatness. This week we're going to be celebrating Hanukkah. Sunday night we're lighting the first light of Hanukkah. And what was the story? What was the backdrop of the Hanukkah story? It was Jews who were Hellenized, Jews who were assimilated, who were completely disconnected from Judaism, even Jews who didn't appreciate the fact that we had a temple, the fact that we had a Beit HaMikdash in Jerusalem. And they were lazy. They weren't diligent in their work. And then comes along the Maccabees, and they sacrifice, and they recognize, and they appreciate the fact that the Jewish people need to have that relationship with Hashem, need to be close to God, and they sacrifice for that. And that descent led eventually to the miracles of Hanukkah, both in the war and with the oil. And with that, my friends, we recognize that descent, falling, is not something we should be dwelling on. The fact that we fell and we had problems, and how many of us dwell on the challenges that we've had in the past instead of worrying about what those descents, what those failings and fallings can do to help us grow and catapult us for the future. And that's the story of Yehuda and Yosef. That's the story of Hanukkah. And really, isn't that the story of the Jewish people for the last 75 years? We went through hell in Germany. We went through hell in Poland. We fell and there were ashes in 1945. But out of those ashes was rebuilt the state of Israel. Out of the greatest falling in Jewish history came the rebirth after 1900 years of the state of Israel. Falling in our own individual lives and failing even as a community, as a Jewish nation, can eventually lead to the greatest ascent that we could possibly imagine. May we recognize always that the fallings that we have in our lives should not be a reason for despair, for giving up hope, for feeling disconnected from God, but they should be used as a means to try to reconnect and get closer to God, and hopefully we'll be able to rededicate that temple, the Beit HaMikdash, in Israel very, very soon. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom, a happy Hanukkah. Thank you for listening to the Masorah Minute.